Hello, and welcome to our podcast series, Conversations with KidsPeace. I'm Bob Martin. Each year, we mark National Foster Care Awareness Month in May to pay tribute to foster parents who are working so hard to provide loving homes and support for kids in need. It's also a chance to pay tribute to the dedicated staff members who are supporting those families, like those at KidsPeace's operations in Maine, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, and Indiana. To mark National Foster Care Awareness Month, we convened a virtual roundtable discussion of some of our foster care staff to learn more about the state of foster care at the ground level. Joining us were Bethany Moore, a family resource specialist at our Foster Care and Community Programs office in Richmond, Virginia, and two of our foster care program managers, Jensen Sorelli, who's at our Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania office, and Tara Koch, who has that role at our Harrisburg, Pennsylvania office. Here's our conversation. Jensen, Tara, Bethany, welcome. Great to have you with us. We've been talking that May is National Foster Care Month, and I kind of would like to go around with the three of you and talk about what goes through your mind when you think about this field that you've chosen and the practice, the phenomenon of foster care. And Jensen, can we start with you?
Sure. I think when we talk about May being Foster Care Month, it's so important to raise awareness for our foster parents. I mean, they should be praised every day. But I just think it's so important that we have a special month for them to be able to say, like, hey, you are recognized, you are valued, and you are important to us and this community.
Bethany.
Yeah, I think that May is definitely the perfect month to give, our parents a little extra pat on the back. And I think it's a really good time to also try and recruit new foster parents. I think with all of the local activities that go on, and, there's even news articles and stuff, explaining that it is National Foster Care Month, I think this is also a perfect opportunity to pique other people's interest who might not already be involved in foster care and kind of get to know them and what we do.
And obviously, you said it's something that should, just like our appreciation for them, should happen all year round, but it's okay to have a little bit more of a focus at a certain time. Tara, what do you think?
I agree with everything that was said so far, and I think it's a good time to recognize to all of the good that KidsPeace does. I'm really proud to be part of an organization that's so longstanding and is always working for the best needs of kids. I agree with Bethany. It's great to bring awareness to foster parenting and what it is and how people can get involved and help in their communities. I'm really proud of all the people who do step up to open their homes to foster children, and I just think it's a great time to give everyone a well-deserved pat on the back at this time of the year.
Great. Tara, if I could stay with you for a moment here. You can't point to anything in society that doesn't have some influence coming out of the pandemic. And certainly foster care and mental health are that way well. But as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic period, we go into this post-pandemic period, what are some ways you feel that foster care has changed, say, over the last 3 years or from prior to COVID-19?
One of the biggest things I've noticed is a slowdown in new families coming on to be foster parents, and there is such a need for foster parents. We get calls every day for kids who need a resource home, and coming out of COVID-19, things slowed down. We're starting to see it pick back up again. There have been, since then, all protocols put into place with, safety and respect for all with visiting. But I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed during COVID, was just the slowdown of people wanting to open their homes. And so thankfully, we're past that now, and more people are starting to call. Like I said, there's a need for kids of all ages. And so more people are feeling comfortable with getting back into opening their homes.
Jensen, you were nodding your head during that. That's what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, we're seeing that. And with adding on to that, I think we're seeing a bigger push from counties that we work with for kinship care. And they want to keep the kiddos with their biological family more so than post-pandemic or pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem to have put a real push towards those sort of, I guess, evolved looks at how foster care works.
Right.
And obviously that influences what you guys do. Bethany, your job has many facets, but one of them obviously is you're talking to people who are considering or who you would like to consider becoming foster parents. I was wondering, like, when you do that, are there common questions or issues that come up in those conversations you have with them?
Yeah, so the most frequent question that I get asked is, how do you do it? You know, you have these kids, welcome them into your home, you build a relationship with them. And then, you know, even though it's for the best, a lot of times that the kids return back to their biological families, how do you do it without getting attached? How do I explain it to the children currently in my home, my biological family members, my friends? You know, how do I manage that aspect of it? And I always tell folks that you have to think of being a foster parent as a stepping stone in that child's life, where you are creating a safe and loving and nurturing space for that child when they need it the most. And the goal, of course, is for them to return home. We hope that their biological families are working towards that as well. But definitely just thinking it as a part of their life. Everybody is in your life for a reason, and sometimes just a season. So I try to just remind everybody of that, you know, as little or long as they are with you, you are doing it for the right reasons, and that is going to be ultimately a part of their story as an adult.
Tara, I'm assuming you see something similar in what in your conversations with folks about this.
Yes.
One thing I wondered about was, are there questions that come up that are sort of like the process, the operation, how this works? Because Bethany was saying how you've got them talking about what it's going to mean from a family perspective or an emotional perspective. Do you get people asking, you know, what kind of forms do I have to do? That sort of thing.
Yes, people are always curious how you become a foster parent. And I explain, I think KidsPeace really excels because we cater it to the person that we are working with and take it step by step. There's training that's involved. So we don't just throw people, you know, into the water with no training or anything like that. We support them every step of the way in completing the paperwork that needs done, such as clearances. There's state requirements that, pending what state you're in, that have to be completed. So we are dedicated to holding people's hands through that process and getting them approved as foster parents. People always have questions about what you have to do. They also have questions about what ages we work with. And I see a need from newborn to adult. So there's really no age group that there's a shortage of calls for. So there's always questions. And one thing to tag onto what Bethany said, people do always say, you know, I don't think I could do it. I wouldn't be able to send them back. And I could not agree more with Bethany saying that this is a stepping stone, because for some of these kids, it changes their life trajectory to have a safe landing space. And so just like people who are called to be doctors or hospice nurses or teachers, any profession where you're dealing with other people, it's certainly a calling. And so I would invite people who feel that in their hearts to act upon it.
I think it seems to me that actually indicates someone who has the emotional strength, the love in their heart. If they're saying, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know if I can put them up in my house. I don't know if my, brother-in-law will like them. I don't know if I will be able to say goodbye. I think that's a fabulous thing. Let me spring a little bit of a surprise in here. I wonder if there's a question any of you got that you thought, this is a really odd question, or something that no one's ever asked before. Anybody come up and say, I don't know, whatever it is?
I have a lot of people, and well, by a lot, I mean probably 5 or 6 within my last 5 years here, call me and ask how many children currently live at our office. So I think that's a bit of a misconception that although, yes, we are a foster care agency, we do not house them in the office.
I have heard that also.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
also heard that one.
Bethany, that fits the bill exactly. Thank you.
Happy to help.
I had not anticipated. So, in addition, and we were just talking about, the way that what we call foster care has evolved and how our services at KidsPeace are evolving as well. In addition to helping foster parents and being their resource, their support, it seems to me that foster care staff, and I'm directing Jensen, I really think to you, because I think the Bloomsburg office has done a lot in this area, is trying to, the staffs are trying to build connections for mentoring for foster kids. If you could just explain a little bit of why that's important to find people. Obviously we want to find foster parents, but also finding people who might act as mentors to these kids to make these connections.
Yeah, I think having a parental figure, which would fall under the foster parent, is so important because a lot of these kiddos obviously didn't have a healthy parent-child relationship, but it's really important for these kiddos to have healthy relationships outside of that as well, to learn, like the independent living stuff, like to play sports, like if that person's a coach, it's important for them to know they have a community of people. And like a lot of people say, like they have a village of people to help them, and they know that not everybody's against them. And it all comes back to having healthy connections, and they need to know they have more than just one person to go to. So I think that's really important for them to have a mentor that they can look to as that.
And Bethany, you were agreeing with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I know even, as myself as a child, there are certain things that I maybe didn't feel comfortable or didn't want to talk to my parents about. I think that having an outside person, maybe somebody you're not living with, that is a trustworthy figure in your life to have to talk to when you're not feeling so comfortable talking to your foster parents about maybe a situation at school or outside with peers in the community. I think it's super important to have multiple different people in their life for different reasons.
I have a final question. Again, I want to go back to talking, getting the responses from each of you. And I think, Tara, I'm going to start with you. Is there an experience or story that has stuck with you that you could share that helps explain why it is you do what you do, why you're in this field?
It's so hard to narrow it down. I've worked at KidsPeace going on 24 years, which is crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But there have been so many families and kids that have just made an impact on me through the years. And I will take it back to way when I very first started with KidsPeace, and we were having our first holiday party, and Santa Claus was coming with all the gifts, and all the kids were like bum rushing him. And so he came with all of his gifts, and all of the kids, as they're running, I noticed that one was not. And I was taking pictures of all of this happening. And I noticed this one kid was more interested in me taking pictures than in going to see any of the gifts that Santa had brought. And he came up to me and said, "Could you take a couple of pictures of just me?" And I said, "Of course." And he said, "I don't have any pictures of myself as a kid." And I was so struck by that. And it has stuck with me all of my years at KidsPeace. It just is humbling to know not everybody, but some kids come from really difficult circumstances, and just being that safe place or stepping stone for them means so much. It's truly life-changing when you can interact with these kids, and it's just such a reward. It just really is.
Jensen, how about you?
Yeah, like Tara said, like there's so many, like there's current cases that we're working with, but one that really just sticks out with me at the Bloomsburg office, we had a sibling group of 5 come into care. Well, 4 at the time, and they unfortunately were placed in 2 separate homes. And 2 of the boys were in their like younger years, and the other 2 were newborn, and they unfortunately were placed in separate homes. And throughout the years, the foster parents ended up becoming like the best of friends, and the kids were able to grow up together and still have that sibling relationship. And then there was a 5th one born along the way during COVID. And I think watching these families bond over the kids in their home and giving them the chance to be a brother and sister in separate home was just so amazing. And they still have a great relationship. They got adopted after 6.5 years in 2022. So we're just so happy to be a part of that and watch that journey unfold. And we still get to watch that journey unfold. And it's just amazing to see those kids grow up together, even though they were separated in foster care.
That's a fantastic
It's
outcome.
amazing.
Bethany, last word.
Yeah. Of course. So I think that my interest in this field sparked even before I was at KidsPeace. My mom grew up in a very, very rough childhood. Foster care was not much of a thing in the 60s when she was growing up. Had it been, her and both of her brothers absolutely would have ended up in foster care. And seeing her go through the challenges and seeing kind of the things that she's carried with her into adulthood has kind of really sparked my interest in wanting to get involved to help these kids before it gets to that point. And I guess it worked. My sister also has a master's of social work, so it's kind of become a family thing that we want to try to help these kids so that they don't have to go through some of the same struggles that we have seen firsthand.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, I chose that question to end because I really feel that when I have the opportunity, I have the privilege of talking to folks like you guys that are in this field. I learn so much, and I realize so just starkly how much this is needed. And so I obviously thank you for being with us today, but more importantly, I thank you and I thank all of your colleagues for what you're doing for these kids. It is truly, truly needed. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us today.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
I want to thank Bethany Moore, Tara Koch, and Jensen Sorelli from our foster care operations for joining us in this podcast marking National Foster Care Awareness Month. And thank you for joining us as well. We look forward to having you join us again for more Conversations with KidsPeace. Until then, take care.